Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here on this rainy afternoon. We're here for the second briefing before our Thursday, October 2nd board meeting. And we have a couple of discussion items today. The first one is Forsyth Tech presentation. Dr. Spriggs is here. Could you please come on up? We'll welcome you.
I'm going to see if the technology is my friend today and I can remember Ashley's lesson. There we go. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for the opportunity again to come before you and to share some information about all the wonderful things that are going on at your community college. There is always quite a lot to share. I'm going to start with, if I can make this work, talking about the capital projects that the county supports for the community college. The first one, this is a little bit difficult to see, but right now it is just a design. One of the projects that we are finishing with the bond dollars provided by Forsyth County is our Transportation Technology Center. You can see here the design for an addition. Many of the commissioners, I think we had 3 commissioners and our new county manager with us when we had our groundbreaking without dirt, which was a wonderful way to do this. I think we'll keep that. At the Transportation Center, we're very excited about this project. It should be finished around May or June of next year. It will significantly increase our capacity for the programs that already exist in transportation technology, including our diesel and heavy equipment program most notably, but give us additional space for growth and to be able to provide more students. I mentioned at the groundbreaking that our enrollment overall, and I'll talk about that in a moment, is higher than it was last year. I learned while I was at the groundbreaking that at the Transportation Center for those programs specifically, we've had about a 20% increase in enrollment in 1 year just in those programs. So we're really excited about the growth there and thankful for the opportunity to add this addition based on the bond dollars. We've also just completed and moved all of our new people and new projects into the Strickland Center on our campus. This was another bond project. We finished ahead of schedule. These are just a few of the pictures. You can see how we brand everything with our Forsyth Tech blue and teal. It's fresh, new space. It has given us about an additional 79,000 square feet that we desperately need it to provide wraparound support for students as well as some additional classroom space. I hope that you will be able to come by at some point and get a look at the new space. We're moving our bookstore over there. We've increased the capacity at our conference center as well. So again, thank you so much for your support for this project. We also had our Out with the Old, In with the New Demo Day celebration, where we were able to celebrate the newness that we will be creating with our Learning Commons, which is another bond-supported project. This was our campus in the courtyard prior to demolition. We were able to complete the demolition of 6 buildings. These were buildings that were no longer inhabitable and were no longer in use, with the exception of one that was used as a warehouse for storage, but it was really in bad shape, very old buildings. And so we have demolished those. We were able to do that during a summer break between classes, so we did not have a lot of students on campus. It worked out well. And now we are moving forward with the next phase of this project, which you see here, which will create this beautiful courtyard in the middle of our camp, in the middle of these buildings, connecting all of our buildings together and giving us some space that we will be able to use for students and faculty and staff to just enjoy the outdoors, as well as being able to fit about 1,300 people in this space for events and things like that. So very excited about that piece of the project. That should be completed in the spring of next year, by the spring of next year, if not before. And then we will move to the final phase with our bond money, which is to create the Learning Commons, which is going to be, again, a 21st century library and learning resource center. It will be 3 levels. It will sit on the outside of the courtyard and will provide a lot of space for the traditional library services, as well as a lot of technology, some classroom space, maker space for our students and the public, conference space, and other resources to assist students with their academic needs. That project will probably be completed in the earliest will be in 2026, around the springtime of 2026. I also wanted to share great news about our enrollment. You all know that I had mentioned last year we had our highest enrollment in 10 years. Well, this year, on the first day of class, which is what you see here, we were up, actually, don't pay attention to the 9202, but that 8,700 number, or where that highest graph dot is, was our first day of class as compared to last year's first day of class, and we were up 700 students, which is remarkable and exciting and challenging all at the same time. We have not received enrollment growth funding as yet from the state, so we are working diligently to be able to support this influx of students without having received our enrollment growth funding, but we have a full slate of classes for the fall, and no students have been impacted at this time, so very happy with that. The 9202 number was a number that we put on this chart before we sent it to Ashley for you, but I can tell you that that number has gone up. As of today, we're almost at 9,300 students for the fall semester because we're continuing to add students for our second 8-week term, which begins in October. So I think that people around the community are recognizing the value of their community college and taking advantage of the world-class programs that we have to offer and the workforce development opportunities we provide. I also wanted to share information about dual enrollment. As you know, this is the opportunity paid for by the state for high school students to earn college credit while they're in high school. We had a goal to increase. When I came back in 2019, we had around 1,000 students that were taking advantage of this amazing opportunity. We had a goal of having 1,500 by 2025, and as you can see, we have 1,796 as of this fall. So I'm so proud of the team that has worked very hard and the partnerships that we've been able to create and cultivate with the school systems in order to be able to exceed this target. This is an amazing advantage for students because, again, it's free, paid for by the state, and they can leave high school having earned college credit while also getting to be in college classes and understand what it's like to be a college student. We also, you can see here, I just wanted to show the background or the breakdown. If Dr. Martin was here, he would ask me this question. So in preparation for the question, you can see the breakdown between the traditional dual enrollment students. These are students who are in high schools taking college credit along with their high school classes versus what we call cooperative innovative high schools, which are our early college and middle colleges. About 541 of our students are in those early and middle colleges, and the other 1,238 are participating in their high schools. And just to kind of show you what that looks like, another Don Martin question that we anticipated. This is the breakdown by school within the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School District for the students who are taking dual enrollment. So you can see that West Forsyth, Reagan, East Forsyth are some of our partners that have the most students enrolled with us. But again, just excited that more of our high schoolers are taking advantage of this wonderful opportunity that I wish I had had way back in the day when I was in high school. I also once a year like to give you just a little bit of an update on our Vision 2025. When we created Vision 2025, our strategic plan back in 2019, it felt like we had so much time to accomplish all this work, and now it feels as if time has truly flown by, but we are having great success. Just as a reminder, we have 4 pillars of excellence that ground our Vision 2025 strategic plan. Number 1, that we will be excellent in completion and transfer. Number 2, that we will be excellent in equitable access and success. We will be excellent in learning outcomes is pillar 3. And finally, that we will be excellent in taking responsibility for it mattering what happens when our graduates enter the workforce. In other words, post-graduation outcomes, making sure that our programs don't just lead to minimum wage jobs, but lead our students to family-sustaining wage careers here at home in our local area. So a highlight from each of those pillars for you today, our completion number in 2019 was 19%. We are at now 33%. It's important to note that this is 3-year completion, which is the metric that the Department of Education uses. The majority of our students are part-time, so this is a tad bit misleading in that it will take a part-time student longer than 3 years to complete. But if we can make progress on the 3-year completion, we are making progress on all the other metrics, and we're just ecstatic about this. Our goal is 40% by the end of next year. We believe we are on target, so next year I will be back and hopefully sharing some even better news with you. We also, in Pillar 2, Equitable Access and Success, want to make sure that each and every student has the opportunity to succeed. And so we have services that we have built and support systems to support low-income students, to support students of color, to support student parents. Every one of our students comes to us with different kinds of needs and barriers. And so this metric is that we won't have gaps. If you're a low-income student, if you're an underrepresented minority student, if you're a student parent, you will be able to succeed at the same levels as all students. We had a goal of 38%. When I came in 2019, we were at 12% for this metric. We've more than doubled that, and we're at 28%, and again, continuing with good progress on this goal as well. We also had a goal under learning that our transfer students, those students who are with us for 2 years taking college classes, who then go to one of our university partners and finish their last 2 years towards a bachelor's, will have higher GPAs and better outcomes than the students who start at the university. I'm thrilled to say that that is the case, and it is continuing to grow. In other words, our students are outperforming the students who start. In fact, this year, for the first time in my 28 years working at community colleges in the state, we've had 2 universities who have come to us to say they've looked at this data, and because of that, they want more Forsyth Tech transfer students. So we're working in partnership with them to help more of our students get into their colleges, and just really excited about those outcomes. And then finally, this is another opportunity for me to thank the county and to thank all of you, because you have been such good supporters of our apprenticeship program. And as you can see here, we have exceeded both of the goals that we had set for work-based learning and Learn and Earn apprenticeship program back in 2019. We had a goal of having 20 employers participate in our apprenticeship program. We have over 50. We had a goal also of having, I forgot the exact number. We have 17 occupations that you can get an apprenticeship in now, and that exceeds the goal we had set for ourselves. And in addition to that, we have well over the 10% of our students who are seeking a degree participating in a work-based learning component. That is vitally important, because on-the-job training is some of the best education that they can get. So combining what they're doing in the classroom with the opportunity to be in the workforce really makes a difference in their ability to get the skills that they need to be successful. So that's a little bit of a snapshot on how well we're doing with our strategic plan. Thank you again for all your support. I did want to share, I love this photo of our dry groundbreaking, if you will. And again, thanks to all the county staff. We also had Kyle there with us, and along with the commissioners and our county manager, and we greatly appreciate you being there and supporting this project. A few other highlights. This is just a picture that I love. These are all high school students who were our summer Trailblazer interns. So these students interned with us while they had a break this summer from high school. They did a fantastic job. Many of the folks that worked with these young people wanted to hire them. And so we were just thrilled to be able to participate in that program and have so many of these amazing young people helping us out over the summer. We also were able to sign another articulation agreement. This one is a little bit unique, and I wanted to point it out specifically. I think that our Blaze mascot is really nicely situated with the WGU owl that you see in the top right corner. But this is a partnership that we have, an articulation agreement with Western Governors University, which allows our students who complete a 2-year degree to transfer all of their credits into Western Governors University. And a uniqueness of this partnership is that it also offers a very low-cost tuition for our staff and faculty to be able to continue their education in any Western Governor University program. So happy to be able to provide that for students, but also happy that it's another opportunity for staff and faculty. We have started some new programs. We are starting a new associate degree nursing expansion in Stokes County, thanks to a $400,000 investment from the state system. We are also starting here in Forsyth County Central Sterile Processing, which is a program that our health systems desperately wanted us to start. That was also thanks to a state investment of $400,000. We're working with Forsyth County with an investment of $265,000 to provide opioid substance abuse training, and we're very grateful for the opportunity to participate in that partnership with you for that. And the bottom left is a picture of our first ever commercial driver's license program students. It took us a while to figure out how to do this, but we have been able to find the space and the program and get the program off the ground. And we have a waiting list already for students for this high impact and high wage career. And I think that is all of my updates for you this afternoon. As always, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there questions? Commissioner Bessie?
Thank you, ma'am. Just a suggestion, actually, your slides are always a good way to keep track of the statistics you're giving us. Mm-hmm. They'd be even more useful if they all started at zero.
Okay.
It'll give me when I'm
where we started from?
Right, because it varies by graph.
Right.
And it's harder to have a quick visualization of what you're talking about.
Okay.
That's more accurate.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good suggestion.
Other questions? Thank you so much, and congratulations on those great numbers.
Thank you.
We so appreciate what you do for our students.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Our next update is from Greater Winston-Salem, Inc. Ellis Kiefer, please come forward. How are you?
Doing well. Good afternoon, Vice Chair Wisenhunt and members of the board. Thank you so much for having me here. I have a presentation, so I will take the same test that Dr. Spriggs just took and see if I can pass too. Okay, that's the scariest part. So I'm here today, thank you again for having Greater Winston-Salem here, just to give you a quick Q3 economic development update, the activity we've seen over the past couple months, and then a few highlights as to what is to come. As you know, Greater Winston-Salem Inc.'s goals by 2030 are to be the top mid-sized city in the Southeast, to be a more equitable community, and to continue to be the best place to raise a family. And thanks to your support, particularly this year, we are well on our way to achieving those goals. As you know, Excel Interior Doors located their manufacturing operation in Union Cross a couple of months ago, creating 69 jobs and $10.5 million in capital investment. And then, of course, Foster Cavanis announced a few weeks ago that they would be expanding into Forsyth County, a project totaling $6.25 million and over 300 total jobs. So where does that put us for 2024 thus far? Year to date, we have supported the creation of over 600 jobs and $137 million of capital investment. And we are very proud of those successes, but our project flow has given us very little time to celebrate. We are currently working over 60 active projects, which is about the number that we've hovered at consistently throughout the year. Our dominant industry is still primarily advanced manufacturing at about 60% of our overall project load. We've maintained very consistent project flow all year with an average intake of 10 new projects per month. We did see a slightly above average number of in-market visits this quarter, which is exciting. Visiting companies have come from countries as far as Australia and Japan, and their industries have ranged from chemical manufacturing to a nonwovens project we had recently. One particularly interesting visit that we had this quarter that I'd love to mention was a delegation from Spain. There was a Spanish biotech delegation. They came to North Carolina to explore how our life science sector has been built out, see if there's potential partnership opportunities. So it was a group of folks from both public and private sectors in the Galicia region of Spain. And they went across North Carolina, certainly including RTP, but we had fantastic feedback about their experience in Winston. They were so excited and thrilled by what they saw. They immediately reached out after getting back home and said, how can we partner? When can we partner? So just really encouraging that our biotech sector specifically is gaining international recognition. 2 final updates for you. Thanks to your support, we are finalizing the hiring process for an additional economic development team member. And because of that project load, we're very excited for that. So I'll share more about that in the coming, hopefully, weeks with you all. And lastly, our Forsyth Works efforts are still underway. In fact, we had a session this morning on childcare. We're currently working to prepare for our 2nd annual World of Work event, where we will host, once again, over 5,000 Winston-Salem, Forsyth County 8th and 10th graders to explore industry and career opportunity in Forsyth County. So thank you so much again for your support, and I am also happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Go ahead.
I'll go ahead and be the one to ask the dumb question. I realize that I have never asked this. What distinguishes advanced manufacturing as a recruitment area from generally manufacturing?
That is not a dumb question. It's actually a very complicated answer. And technically, advanced manufacturing means any company that invests 10% of their budget or more in R&D. And I will say that we don't vet that at the door in every case and say, what percentage of your budget is spent on R&D. But generally speaking, the more high-tech companies, that's going to be true. Good question.
More questions? Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank
Great
you.
report.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on this rainy afternoon. I'm going to turn the meeting over to our county manager, Ms. Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and good afternoon, Commissioners, staff, and guests. These items for consideration are for our October 3rd meeting. The first item on our agenda is a public hearing on the zoning petition to rezone from RS9 to GBS, and this is zoning docket F1643. Our Planning Director, Chris Murphy, will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair, members of the Commission. This is a rezoning request for F1643, similar to the County Manager. I'm not going to read all the petitioners' names, but it is a rezoning request to rezone from RS9 to GBS for slightly more than 5.5 acres of property on the at the southeast intersection of Peters Creek Parkway and Fishel Road, down close to the county line. That is shown here on the Legacy Growth Management Area Plan. You do see it is located on the southeast side of Peters Creek Parkway, just north of the county line, the Forsyth County, Davidson County line. Here is the subject property highlighted in yellow. I did call attention last time, and I will again this time. You do see the old alignment of Fishel Road, where Fishel Road came into 150 Peters Creek Parkway at an angle, both on the northeast side and the southwest side of Peters Creek Parkway, and probably 25 to 30 years ago that was realigned, but this existing section of Fishel Road did remain because it did serve 3 or 4 properties, and you will see that when we look at the site photos. As part of this development, they will be closing that right-of-way should this be approved and move forward for development. This is a subject property, again, outlining the subject property on the aerial imagery. It is predominantly wooded, but there are a few homes that are currently on a couple of these parcels. This is looking at the South Suburban Area Plan update. The recommendation is a split recommendation of both commercial and multifamily. The requested uses do cover that range of uses. They do have both commercial and multifamily residential. Staff does believe that this is consistent with the plan. There's also a corridor study that was done over the course of time after the area plan that kind of further refined some of those design elements. And again, this plan does comply with that plan as well. This is looking west along Fishel Road. The subject property is to the left. That gravel area there in the foreground is a wide driveway that is part of that Fishel Road realignment. That is, looking at that image, that is Fishel Road that will be closed as part of this development. This is looking north along Peters Creek Parkway. The subject property is to the right. You see the zoning sign there in the image. This is looking south along Peters Creek Parkway. The subject property is to the left. Again, the zoning sign. And then this image here is taken from Peters Creek Parkway looking at the subject property. You do see that there are a couple of existing residences that, again, did access that Fishel Road old alignment. And again, with this redevelopment, those homes will be gone and the Fishel Road will be closed. This is looking at the overall site plan. Again, you do see there is a driveway on Fishel Road and there is a driveway on Peters Creek Parkway. The building and development closest to the Fishel and Peters Creek Parkway intersection, that is proposed to be a coffee restaurant with drive-through. The southernmost image is a car wash. These next two images just zoom in a little bit more to the site plans. Again, that is a restaurant for coffee, and there is the car wash. The request is generally consistent with the land use recommendations of both Legacy 2030 and the South Suburban Area Plan update. While the proposed site plan does just exclusively show commercial uses, the requested list of uses for this rezoning does include a mixture of retail service and residential uses typically desired in activity centers and along growth corridors, which Peters Creek Parkway is one. The request proposes a site design that places commuter-oriented commercial uses along Peters Creek Parkway, away from single-family residential uses further to the east. This was heard by the Planning Board at their August public hearing. There were no speakers in opposition, and following the public hearing, the Planning Board did vote unanimously to recommend approval of this request. And with that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 2 is a public hearing on the proposed 2025 Schedule of Values, Standards, and Rules for the Reappraisal of Real Property in Forsyth County. Our Tax Assessor Collector John Burgess will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. On October 3rd, we will have a public hearing on the proposed 2025 Forsyth County Uniform Schedule of Values, Standards, and Rules. The hearing is specific to the documents that make up those standards. The state statutes require a timeline that we use for the adoption of these standards, and so I wanted to show you where we were. You've already received the schedule of values. We've already notified the newspaper and advertisement of such for public inspection, and that we have a public hearing date on October 3rd, heading toward an adoption date of October 17. The 2025 schedule of values is available for public inspection in our office located on the first floor of the Government Center. It's also online attached to this item in the agenda. The purpose of the schedule is to provide guidance and a framework for completing real property appraisals for those making such appraisals. The schedule of values consists of many construction rates for both residential and commercial properties. There's a few pages I wanted to highlight for you here. And any reappraisal, we have to use sales to estimate the market value of each property. And so the North Carolina Department of Revenue gives us guidance as to which transactions we do not use in using sales to analyze the real estate market. And so this is just a sampling, or this is the list of sales that we would not use in our analysis. Also, on page 5, at the very top, it lists the North Carolina statute talking about uniform appraisal standards. Essentially, that we are to appraise all property at its true value in money, and meaning that that's the estimated selling price, hypothetical selling price of each property as of January 1st of 2025. At the bottom of page 5 are standards for our sales ratio analysis. And these are, once they're adopted, then those provide that framework of statistical criteria that we are to meet. They deal with level of assessment, and also the coefficient of dispersion, which is a measurement of goodness of fit of those cells. And then there are also measures to guard against progressive or regressiveness in our assessments, and that's called the price-related differential, or PRD. There are other pages that you might find of interest. Talks about how we do land appraisals. The land use schedules are inside our schedule of values. The North Carolina Department of Revenue produces those. We adopt the ones that they recommend. And just for informational purposes, there are no changes to the agriculture or horticulture rates this year compared to 2021. There's slight increases in the forestry schedule. There's also information about how we do the 3 approaches to value: cost approach, income approach, and sales comparison approach, and also listings helping people understand the difference between real property and personal property. It sometimes can be a little complicated in manufacturing buildings. What's a part of the process is usually business property, whereas if it's not part of the process, it's real estate. And so there's components in the schedule that helps identify those as well. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
Madam Vice Chair, I don't have any questions. However, this is a suggestion to Madam Manager relative to all of this information being compacted into layman's terms for the community to be informed. I thought we could maybe do that through Jim Longworth or Ed and Todd, just again to continue educating community about all of this information.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you
Thanks,
for that.
John. I appreciate all that you do and I don't want to put any more on you than you can bear, so we'll see if our manager.
No, if you're referring to general information about the reappraisal process in general, not specific to the schedule of values, we already have scheduled public meetings for all the libraries in the county, and then we'll be sending out information to our volunteer fire departments to see if they'd like us to come speak, and we'll speak to any group that will have us.
Thank you for saying
Talking to tell them about the reappraisal process, why we do it, why it's mandated, what our task is, that sort of thing. And so most of that will happen in the months of November and December. And so that's why we've not begun that part yet, is it's a little too early. At this moment, our staff is working very hard to complete the reappraisal as it is. We anticipate mailing reappraisal notices not on January 1st, but probably about February 1st. So we do have to be careful that we don't get too much information out too far in advance of when the actual notices would hit the mail. But, information is always good no matter when, but that's our focus time, is November and December for those public engagements. Anything we can do to help get the word out, we're fans of that. So.
Thank you so very much, John. Thanks.
Any questions? Thank you, John. That's good information.
Thank you. Agenda item number 3 is a resolution recognizing October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Our Family Justice Center staff and partners will be here at next week's meeting. Agenda item number 4 is a resolution to direct fiscal year 25 expenditures of opioid settlement funds to amended strategies. And there's an associated amendment to the North Carolina Opioid Settlement Special Revenue Fund to reallocate funds for fiscal year 25. Our Deputy Manager Denise Price will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So this item, as County Manager Robinson stated, is to amend the FY25 settlement spending authorization directed, specifically moving those Exhibit A strategies that can be moved to Exhibit B in that direction. This comes at the advisement of the Department of Justice and the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Opioid Settlement Technical Assistance Team. As you know, there's kind of 2 categories of strategies that we can direct spending to. That's those creatively named strategies, option A and option B. So option A has a little bit less of an administrative burden as it comes to reporting, and that's the reason for the advisement. We also have reduced not the total amount, but the allowable expenses for one provider. So there has been an equipment charge that has been pulled out of the contract, but the spending amount has not changed. They had multiple projects within their proposal, so this allows them to do more education with prescribers and to purchase more naloxone for distribution in the community. So there's no dollar amount change to this. It is just an administrative reallocation from option B to option A. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Thank you.
Agenda item number 5 is approval of minutes for the meeting of September 19th, and those were emailed out to you all this morning. Agenda item number 6 is a resolution authorizing execution of an amendment to the agreement between Habitat for Humanity to provide down payment assistance for homes using ARPA funds. Bailey Arnold from the Finance Department will brief this item.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. On January 5th, 2023, the Board of Commissioners approved a resolution awarding $110,000 in ARPA funding to Habitat for Humanity of Forsyth County, Inc. to provide down payment assistance to 11 families purchasing homes. Got lost. The original term for the organization's program was January 5th, 2023 through December 31st, 2024. Due to the program relying on construction of new homes, delays in construction timelines have resulted in only 7 families receiving that assistance, and the extension would allow for sufficient time for additional homes to be built, so the remaining $40,000 of ARPA funding can be provided to those families. The Habitat for Humanity is requesting an extension through December 31st, 2025.
Questions?
Okay, the next 2 items are Bailey's as well. Agenda item number 7 is a resolution authorizing execution of an amendment to the agreement between Old Salem for restoration and improvements to buildings related to Old Salem's Hidden Towns project using ARPA funds.
On March 2nd, 2023, Old Salem, Inc. was awarded $391,875 to perform restoration work on buildings related to the Hidden Towns project. For similar reasons, the request is due to construction delays and the unique technical requirements of the historical district. On top of that, work has to be done with traditional period appropriate techniques, which necessitates hiring contractors with those skills and the time to perform that work. Old Salem is requesting an extension through December 31st, 2025. Also included in this amendment to the resolution is the addition of the St. Philip's African American Moravian Log Church to its restoration activities. If approved, Old Salem would use these funds to replace the cedar shingle roof of that building. The St. Philip's Log Church is a centerpiece building to the Hidden Towns project, which aims to educate visitors on the experiences of African American and enslaved individuals of the town. The building is currently closed to the public, and it is receiving other restoration work to the interior and the exterior walls, and the roof replacement would allow the building to be reopened to the public. That is all I have for that.
Questions? You're good.
Okay, and agenda item number 8 is a resolution authorizing execution of an amendment to the agreement between the YWCA in Forsyth County to purchase a minivan and replace or repair buses for the Best Choice Center using ARPA funds.
Thank you. On May 18th, 2023, the YWCA was awarded $85,000 of ARPA funding to purchase a new minivan and conduct repair work on existing buses through December 31st, 2024. These vehicles are used to support transportation for the Best Choice Center, which is a year-round academic enrichment program for low-income children. The minivan has been purchased, but because of the advanced age of the buses, there's been an unexpected challenge in acquiring replacement parts, and some parts have needed to be custom made because they're no longer commercially available. The extension would allow sufficient time for the YWCA to complete the bus repairs using ARPA funding. They are requesting an extension through December 31st, 2025. And To recap all of that, all three requests are through December 31st, 2025, and there is no additional funding included with any of the requests.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 9 is a resolution selecting and awarding a contract to HDR Engineering, Inc. of the Carolinas for industrial site identification and evaluation services. Our Community Economic Development Director, Kirby Robinson, will brief this item.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, Madam Vice Chair and Board. Thank you for having me and appreciate the opportunity to present this item to you today. As background, the board set aside $250,000 of 2022 PAYGO funds for development of an employment center identification strategy. So in July, staff released an RFP to 36 firms for an industrial site identification and evaluation service. The successful firm will be expected to work with county staff, city-county planning and utilities department staff, and local economic development partners such as Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., to identify a list of sites across Forsyth County that are suitable for industrial development. The successful provider will break down viable sites into 4 categories. Those include advanced manufacturing, health and life sciences, aviation and aerospace, and headquarters for major employers. The final product will be a detailed site inventory analyzing key components of each site, such as infrastructure capabilities, environmental conditions, topography, encumbrances, and other relevant physical features. The provider will also conduct a highest and best use analysis of each site and estimate costs and timelines required to make these sites shovel-ready, including land acquisition, site preparation, and required infrastructure needs. That's a lot. So 10 responses were received and evaluated based on the provider's level of experience with similar services, qualifications, and pricing. A committee consisting of the utilities director, planning director, deputy planning director, and I individually evaluated the responses and unanimously agreed that HDR Engineering, Inc. of the Carolinas was the most qualified firm to provide the service. HDR Engineering is a national firm consisting of engineers, GIS analysts, communications experts, and economists who have extensive experience in site selection services. HDR plans to partner with Jones Lang LaSalle of the Carolinas, which is a commercial real estate firm. The HDR office that would administer this contract is located in Winston-Salem, and JLL Carolinas has offices in Charlotte and Raleigh. The Winston-Salem HDR office has performed similar work for surrounding North Carolina counties and has worked directly with the City of Winston-Salem, City County Utilities Commission, and the City of Greensboro on other projects. HDR and JLL recently partnered together on elements of site selection and development for the Greensboro-Randolph mega site where the Toyota battery manufacturing plant is being developed. That was one of the examples they submitted of their previous work that was very impressive. So the proposed contract is not to exceed $139,000 and consists of the identification and evaluation of up to 16 sites in Forsyth County. If approved by the board, staff recommends including an additional $40,000 in the contract for additional services that can be accessed with the approval of the county manager. This amount would fund the evaluation of an additional 5 sites should the need arise based on the initial review. That's a little bit of a challenge to put your finger on how many sites those folks would need to look at because they're going to cast a wide net. And essentially when they step through their process here, they say, we're going to come back to you with the hope of having 50 sites. And they're basically going to work with our subject matter experts to then narrow that funnel down. We think we'll get to 16, and that'll be 4 in each of those 4 categories. There could be a need for, let's say you find one more advanced manufacturing site you want to look at. That's sort of the point of the contingency dollars, if you will. In summary, HDR's per site average cost is the second lowest price proposal, and in the context of this bid, staff believes that they are the most qualified firm to provide the site selection services due to their prior experience in similar projects, prior experience working with public entities, and their strong knowledge of the local economy and real estate market. And I'll say one of the driving forces of that, in site selection, you're sort of looking at, what's here in Forsyth County, and having the principal firm leading the study being located in Winston-Salem was really a huge plus in looking at those things. So happy to answer any questions the board has. Again, this was the second lowest cost proposal when you look at an average cost per site. The lowest cost proposal, looking at an average cost per site, was a well-qualified firm. I will say that some of their experience was in economic mobility studies, not necessarily site selection studies. And so that's why the recommendation, again, is to say that we think this is the most qualified firm, but it's the second lowest cost. Happy to answer any questions the board has.
Questions? Thank you, Kirby.
Yes, ma'am.
Agenda item number 10 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement with LabCorp of America Holdings to provide off-site testing for the Department of Public Health. Assistant Health Director Nicole Pretty will brief this item.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. The item before you is a resolution to enter into contract with LabCorp to provide specimen testing for the Department of Public Health, who is not able to perform these tests in-house in our own public health laboratory. There are only 2 local vendors able to provide the tests needed, and informal bids were obtained from both. Both were very similar in pricing, but not quite exact, and based on a weighted average, LabCorp is the cheaper of the 2 options. This contract is not to exceed $71,000, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 11 is a resolution approving the renewal of DocuSign Enterprise Electronic Digital Signature Services. Our Deputy CIO, Joseph Sloop, will brief this item.
Afternoon, Commissioners. The item before you today was actually adopted on September 5th for digital signature services. Unfortunately, there was a technical error with the resolution regarding who we're contracting with. So we're not contracting with Carahsoft, but we are actually contracting directly with DocuSign. So what you have before you is to correct that. Changing out the verbiage from Carahsoft to DocuSign. All the other information is correct. All the informal bids and numbers are correct. And DocuSign is still the lowest price. Happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Thank you.
Agenda item number 12 are appointments to the Health and Human Services Board. The Health and Human Services Board meets next Wednesday, and so their recommendations will come before you all at your meeting next week. Agenda item number 13 and 14 are refunds by the tax assessor and collector, and then 15 are reports. And that's all the items that I have, Madam Vice Chair.
A question about the Health and Human Services Board. You indicate that there are 5 seats. There are 6 applicants listed. What's the breakdown of the eligibility qualifications for those seats?
So I can send you a breakdown by email with the details on it. One of the vacant positions or vacating positions will be that of an engineer. We do not believe that we have adequate responses to that, so there will be a need to repost. There's someone who is engaged with public health services, a consumer of services. That will be a couple of seats that are filled. A physician, I believe, is one of the vacating as well, but I will absolutely get that to you by email.
I looked at, I was scanning through the applications, and one was, I believe, noted as a pharmacist, one noted as an optometrist. Would those be 2 different categories?
They are 2 different positions and both vacating.
And I think the remaining 4 were applicants for the Consumer Health Services. You indicate you've got 2 seats?
Correct.
All right, so basically, this pool, we're looking at picking 2 from 4 applicants.
No, you'll be looking at pulling 3 from 4 applicants. We have to have 17 people on that board, and then there's specific breakdowns of what roles each of those play.
All right, so we've got 4 for 3. Okay, thank you. Just trying to be sure I know what the assignment is.
I'll send you a chart.
Thank you.
Before we adjourn, I would like to say thank you to all the folks who walked a mile today for our babies in this bad weather, although the mile was successful before it started raining. Chair Martin walked, Commissioner Wilson, Commissioner Bessie, Commissioner McDaniel, Manager Robinson, Deputy Manager Denise Price, and our attorney Gordon Watkins. And I was there, and as much as I've talked about it, I did not walk for personal reasons, but it was a great day. I think it was one of the largest turnouts we've had. Do you agree, Denise? And
Absolutely. It was a great turnout. Really appreciate the community support.
yeah, but thank you to all the commissioners who came out today and walked for our babies. Thank you. We have any other comments before we adjourn? Okay, we're adjourned.